Hi Booktube. This is Lina. It's beating around the books, and I am here to do my very belated August wrap up. It's what is it like? Yeah, it's the 11th. I don't know how time has gotten away from me so much, but well, here we are. It's been quite a while since I've read a lot of these books, and apparently I think we've established that my memory is very bad, so this could be a rather uninformative one. I think I read 8 books, 9, 8, no wait, I think 9. Well, say read, most of them were audiobooks, as I seem to be getting into these a lot recently. Not really had a lot of time to read physical books this month. Yeah. Anyway, I think all of these were also on Scribd, which for once I'm actually going to mention. I have a referral link if you're interested. And if you use that, you get 60 days for free instead of 30. So just so you know. And obviously, benefit for me would be that I get a month free if you use it. Anyway, so if you're interested in Scribd, it's down there in the description box. Anyway, so that's enough with the unpaid advertisements. So the first one I read was North Korea Confidential. Now if I knew who wrote it. I can't remember. Anyway, it's clearly a non-fiction. And well, I found it quite, so why I read it is, I don't know, I had this phase where I read a lot about North Korea, like a lot of sort of memoirs or these sort of, I guess, collections where several different defectors talked about their experiences in North Korea, and then also, you know, how they fled and stuff like that. But that was quite a while ago. And this one is, well, a relatively recent one, relatively 2015. I found it now. It's by Daniel Tudor and James Pearson. And this one I found interesting because it also highlights a few things that I didn't really get from any of the other books. There's a huge focus on private markets and how they've developed, and how sort of to an extent the local currency isn't really useful for most things anymore. I'm not, yeah, this was the first one I listened to in August. So that was interesting. It was still not really an amazing read in my opinion, because it seemed, yeah, it was very repetitive to an extent, and yeah, for such a short thing, it just seemed very odd that they kept repeating themselves. You know, if it was like, I don't know, maybe an essay collection, that would be different, but this is, you know, a book with several chapters, and they just keep saying a lot of the same things over and over and over again, which was just a little bit of a waste of time, in my opinion. But otherwise, yeah, it was informative. It was a 3-star read. Okay, after that, I listened to Pizza Girl, I think. I'm sorry, I didn't make any notes. I'm trying to look at my Goodreads, and yeah, not doing a very good job at doing this in any. Anyway, Pizza Girl. Kyoung Frazier is the name of the author, I think. This was interesting. I can't remember what I gave it. Oh yeah, it's also a 3-star read. So it's about this girl. She's 18, I think she's 18 or 19. She works in a pizza place. She drives the delivery. She's the pizza delivery girl, and she has got a boyfriend whom she's got pregnant from him. She still lives with her mum, and apparently her mum's really delighted that she's pregnant, which I found very odd. And she seems to have no ambition whatsoever. She is quite self-destructive. And she starts, well, one day she takes an order, a rather odd order from a woman, and she's basically becomes infatuated with her. And things kind of go from there. And what is interesting, I guess, is her, like, how you, over time, you get to know some of her trauma from, apparently she had a good for nothing dad who was a raging alcoholic, and she could never really understand why her mother didn't get rid of him and didn't leave him, and but she also exhibits some of his sort of tendencies, which is doubly worrying because she's pregnant. And yeah, that's probably also why I didn't like it very much. I don't mind unlikable characters. She's not like wholly unlikable, but maybe it's just a bit too much for me. And I just didn't really buy the whole infatuation with that woman. Yeah, it left a lot to be desired. I don't know. It was all right. I did finish it, so yeah, but it not the best thing I've ever listened to, that's for sure. Okay, and the next one was my absolute highlight of the month, and it was a buddy read with Roz from Scallydandling about the books, and it was Lina Meruane's Nervous System. This is absolutely fantastic. I am actually considering doing a single book review of this, so maybe I should not say too much. It was 5 stars. The language in here is absolutely wonderful. There's so many sentences in here that I underlined, that I kept going back to and reading several times over and over and over again. What was weird was that there's a lot of medical anxiety in here, and there was so much overlap to, well, not I mean, I don't have anything serious, I think, but it was quite funny because the protagonist in the story goes and gets an MRI and also manages to describe that quite poetically. And I had just had an MRI, I think either on the same day or the day before. It was quite funny to sort of read about that, and there were several other points where there was some sort of overlap, which was weird. But yeah, that aside, this is fantastic. I cannot imagine what kind of the poetic sensibility that the translator of this book must have. Yeah, I should probably mention her name. It's Megan McDowell. She's also mentioned in the front, which is nice, isn't it? And I wouldn't recommend this to everyone, but if you love fantastic language and don't mind reading about a lot of medical trauma, but also some historical trauma, then I would definitely highly recommend it. I'm not doing a good job. Yeah, anyway, so I'm gonna do a single book review. I've just decided now, and so that's all I'm gonna say. But yeah, fantastic buddy read. I don't think I've ever read anything like it. Definitely want to read more by her. I've only seen one other book by her that's in translation at the moment, but yeah, it's on my list. It's a must read, absolutely. After that, I listened to Otegha Uwagba's We Need to Talk About Money, which is sort of a blend of memoir and commentary, social commentary about, well, current times in the UK. So Otegha Uwagba speaks about her own relationship with money, and her upbringing as an immigrant to the UK, and how she was quite lucky in terms of her parents being very, very how do you say this? They fostered I can't speak, can I? They fostered a good learning environment, I guess, and they also advocated for her in school when they felt like she wasn't being challenged enough, or when they felt like people may be discriminating against her for some reason. They also sort of really, really fiercely advocated for her and supported her. And she then ended up going to some sort of private school. Do you call that? In the UK, that's called a public school, correct? What we other people call private school? Anyway, and then she gets into, I think it's Oxford. Is it Oxford? Well, Oxbridge, I can't remember. So she is clearly she's clearly a rather intelligent person who's been quite lucky, but also I presume had to work quite hard. And she it takes her a while to realize that there are still, of course, differences between her and those people, other people that are in Oxford, and people who've got a trust fund behind them and don't have to work to support themselves, and especially then after she graduates, when she sees how many people are able to buy their own house or flat, and this is something that's completely outside of her reach for a long, long time. So she sort of explores those sort of discrepancies in, I guess, their reality. And yeah, it was really good. It was a 5-star read for me. She also has a chapter on her work in, what is it, advice, and how terribly misogynistic the work atmosphere there was. So that was quite good. And I think what is her main part about, when it comes to money, is this taboo that so many people don't speak about money. They don't speak about how much they make, or whether they have something saved and so on, especially when it comes to salary, of course. Well, the only people that are gonna benefit from people not sharing this is the employer. And yeah, of course, there's also the, what's it called? She speaks about the wage gap and so on and so forth. So yeah, like what you would expect, I guess. Yeah, but I can definitely recommend it. And the audiobook is narrated by her, and it works really well. I'm not one of those people who always loves audiobooks that are narrated by the author, because some of them are just not very good at it, but I think she does a really, really good job of it. And then the next one was also a memoir, and that was One of Them by Musa Okwonga, which is kind of in this very similar ilk to Otegha Uwagba, because he also went to some... Wait, did he not go? Oh yeah, of course, he went to Eton. I mean, that's mainly about his time in Eton. And you know, how he got in there, and how it's literally... It sounds terrible. It's not the same, but it is very much, you know, it talks about the same themes in terms of, you know, privilege. And one thing that he comments on, which I found really good or very sort of interesting, was this, you know, when people wonder how can someone have absolutely no idea what the real world looks like. Like, how can you grow up and be completely out of touch with what regular people have to deal with every day? And he speaks about how you can get to Eton on some train from, you know, the richer areas around London where these people live. And he just speaks about the sort of, you know, the geography and the logistics of how you can get there. And basically, there's some sort of faster trains that, you know, where these kids then never even really set foot anywhere where there might be people who have less money than them. And, you know, he talks about, like, well, if you're sent to boarding school from the age of, I don't know, 6, 7, and then you go to Eton and then you take this train or whatever, you basically spend your formative years never ever coming in contact with, you know, how the rest of the world lives, or the rest of the country. So that was very interesting. Anyway, let me stop talking about it now. It was good. And I don't know what else to say. Okay, so what was the next one? Almond, which is a Korean novel by Won-pyung Sohn, and it was translated by Joosun Lee. I didn't know this was YA, but it is YA. But I will say it's relatively good YA. So it's about this guy, forgotten his name, who has some sort of problem, a brain condition called alexithymia or alexithymia, where basically there's almond-shaped neurons that are, well, somewhere in the brain, and they are too small, and they cause him to not feel fear or any kind of rather strong emotions like anger, fear, love, blah blah blah, which obviously means that he's, you know, he's not got very many friends or anything like that, and he doesn't react in the way that a typical person would, so people find him rather odd and just, I guess, also a bit disconcerting. And his mother tries to sort of train him to react correctly, to basically mask his condition as best as he can. And well, then, something happens. There's a rather violent encounter, and he is left on his own. Although, well, on his own, yeah, kind of. And he meets someone else who is very, very different from him, because he's incredibly he's incredibly angry and he's not very good at controlling his emotions, and they sort of find some very weird bond. And it's quite sweet, really. It's rather dark, which is something I've come to expect with Korean novels somehow. Certainly for a YA, it's quite dark. And yeah, I like the way he was portrayed, and his sort of, how do you say that? Well, it's neurodivergence, isn't it? And how he struggles with that. Yeah, it's quite good. Then I listened to an essay collection by Joel Golby, which was brilliant, which was, well, not brilliant, but it was a solid 3-star. It's a rather odd collection of essays where he talks about topics ranging from the loss of both of his parents at a rather young age, to how much he hates Wayne Rooney, and also, what is it? Twitch, about, people watching people play computer games and paying them for it. So, and then he has one where he talks about all the Rocky movies and which one is the best. Anyway, maybe you can tell it's rather sort of, how do you say this? It's a rather heterogenic mix of essays, and some of them are quite moving and poignant, and others are just quite funny. And then others left me completely cold, like, for example, the Twitch one, or the Rocky film one. But all in all, it was quite entertaining. And yeah, because it was a mixed bag, it's a 3-star. That's all I have to say. Next one was Assembly by Natasha Brown. This was also really good. I don't think I gave it 5 stars though. I think it was 4 stars. But I think this is incredibly impressive as, like, a debut novel. It's super, super short, but but it's so short, and she's packed so much in here in these, whatever, it's probably 100 pages, I think, just about. And it's so smartly written, and like really, really tight, obviously. And I thought it was brilliant. And I think, so having read those 2 memoirs, one of them and We Need to Talk About Money, they were really, like, sort of in conversation with this, because surprise, surprise, our protagonist is a nameless woman, black woman, who has been to, well, Oxbridge, again, can't remember which one, who has worked her way up a career ladder somewhere in the finance sector. So she's quite successful when it comes to money. And she has a boyfriend who comes from old money, and she is supposed to go to this party at the boyfriend's parents' how do you say that? Is that like an estate or something? I don't know. And we get to know, well, we only see things from her perspective, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, she explores very similar ideas as these 2 memoirs do. The whole, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much, and how having this much privilege as her boyfriend has in growing up in those sorts of surroundings, how that must leave a certain impression on a person's character. And it's almost sort of unfathomable. And another string, I guess, in the story is that she is very ill. I think she's diagnosed with cancer. I'm not sure if it says. I think so. And she doesn't want to pursue treatment, and she's actually not talking to anyone else about it. And that sounds, kind of not understandable for most people. But we kind of get to understand her reasons a bit better over time. Yeah. What else did I read? So the last one I read was Sorrow and Bliss by Meg Mason. And this was an odd one. So we have a protagonist called Martha, and she has some mental illness, and we don't know what it is, and she also doesn't know, for a long time. And we follow her for quite a long time. I think, well, she speaks about her childhood as well, and so the young childhood is, I don't know, done away with in a relatively short amount of time, and then we basically follow her from the time that she first gets symptoms of this mental illness up until past her 40th birthday, I think. So I think, yeah, it probably covers 25 or more years. And she, it's weird. In the beginning, I was very annoyed with her voice, and also with the sort of weird love story that was there. But then I began to really appreciate it over time, mainly because I really liked the portrayal of her struggling with this mental illness, and also with, trying to find a diagnosis, trying to find something that will help her, and how long she goes on with, almost collecting different diagnoses, but they never seem to be right because, nothing really helps her, and she's struggling, and of course other people around her are suffering from it as well. Her husband certainly is, and yeah, it's quite moving in the end. Like, it's really, really well done. And then she has this sister, and I really love the the sisterly bond and how that's portrayed. And yeah, there's a lot going, it's got a lot going for it. So I don't know, I just won me over. I think I gave it 4 stars. I'm not sure if this is a spoiler or not. What I found really interesting is, well, okay, so might be a spoiler, I don't know. Leave the video here if you don't want to hear it. What I found really interesting is that at the end, she does get a diagnosis. So she finds some, I can't remember, is it a psychiatrist or a psychologist? Anyways, doesn't matter. She finds a doctor who diagnoses her correctly, it seems, because she gets medication and it helps her. And she's just in awe at, the difference this medication makes. And it's so, like, it's also kind of, it really shakes her because she never knew that you know, that you could have control over certain things that she never felt she had control over before. And that doesn't solve all her problems, right? Which I found quite nice, you know, nice. It's not just like, oh, everything's fine all of a sudden, but it helps her immensely. And what I found so interesting is that they never actually name the illness, which I liked, because ultimately it doesn't really make any difference. And it's not supposed to be, I think, then a book about a specific mental illness. It's more about, you know, the debilitating effects that a lot of different mental illnesses can have on a person and, you know, the people that are close to them. And I think, yeah, it just lends it a more universal quality, which I appreciated. Yeah, I think it was 4 stars. Certainly not 5, because, like I said, there was a bit, it dragged a little bit in the middle and there was too much love story stuff. Anyway, I think that is it. That's the end of my reading in August. In other news, I also met the first person, the first person that I actually got to meet in person, that I got to know via not Booktube but Bookstagram. I was so glad to see her, and we went to a second-hand bookshop and another bookshop in town that we both never been to, and we hung out for like quite a while. It's maybe I should say it's Natalia from what's her name? It's the Book Epiphanies. I'm gonna link her Instagram downstairs. She writes really, really good reviews in my opinion, and we hung out like 3 times or something within 2 weeks. And the coolest thing that we did was we spontaneously went to see this adaptation of a German classic, and that is Erich Kästner's Fabian, or Der Gang vor die Hunde, Going to the Dogs. I think I've mentioned this before in an older video, because this is the original version as Erich Kästner wanted it published, but his publisher censored some bits. And I recently found it in Oxfam, which is amazing because it looks absolutely new. Anyway, it was a fantastic adaptation. I wish you could all see it. I hope, I don't know, but I kind of hope that it will be available with English subtitles at some point. It's not available right now. It can't be streamed anywhere. I think I looked up, like the DVD release. I don't know who still buys DVDs, but anyway, I'm assuming when the DVD release is, it's also going to be available to stream somewhere. I think that's only in next year in January or something. But I can highly, highly recommend it. So either if you speak German, try and see it if it's still in the cinema. I think it was only released in the beginning of August, so maybe. And if you don't speak German, I would keep it on my radar. I really hope there's going to be English subtitles, because I want to show this to my husband. Fantastic. And now I definitely need to reread this, or actually read anew this other edition that I haven't read so far. I think this is definitely enough. This thing I've been filming for over 30 minutes. Oh goodness. Okay, so let me know what your highlights of August were. And please, somebody pick up Nervous System. It's just brilliant. I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon.